In the 17th century, an inspiring host gathered people together, the purpose to increase their knowledge through conversation. These gatherings were called salons. Guests would debate a topic for the evening, mostly books, then eat and drink tea. Oh, do you want me to say Moloeni? You know that advert of that telecommunication company where they say, Molo mhlobo wam. Dumelang? Good afternoon. Goeiedag, dames en heren. It's so good to be here. Welcome to the great University of Johannesburg, and welcome to the high tea with the Vice-Chancellor. This is Heritage Month. I hope you are enjoying the Heritage Month, and I hope you are looking forward to Heritage Day. If you were to ask me today, who are you, Vice-Chancellor Mpedi? You know what I'll tell you? It's Heritage Month, colleagues. I will tell you, nna ke Letlhokwa la tsela nsebele motho sebela kwa habo. Nna ke ngwana wa lefofala Madenisa fofala molope. Le mo khatlile ha le temekana. Ke Mpedi ke tlowe golo. Ga se o morwa dipholofolo a etile. Dia botau bogosi a sesilo. Mohlang morwa pholofolo a etile, itaune di ja lerotse. Hoa! I know that Professor Amanda Dempsey is wondering, what is this man talking about? Well, in short, I'm from the clan of the elephant. And we say the lion, they can say the lion is the king of the jungle. But when my ancestors were roaming this world, lions were eating watermelons. It's not about me, ladies and gentlemen. It's about an amazing lady, Nonkululeko Gobodo, and an amazing book, Awakened to My True Self. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't just say this type of things lightly. When I say somebody's amazing, you know that that person is amazing. I'm known as a straight talker. Nonkululeko Gobodo is the CEO of Awakened Global. This is a social initiative. She's a former chairperson and founder of Sizwe Nzaluba Gobodo, now SNG Grant Thornton, the largest black auditing and accounting firm in South Africa. Nonkululeko is the first African woman to qualify as a chartered accountant in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1987, where were you?
Not born.
I was eating, we call it murueta, brandy bush. It's a small fruit you find in villages. We don't have it anymore. Maybe it's because of global warming. And shooting birds with kitty and going swimming in a quarry. I like the part in your book where you went swimming with your friends and you had Vaseline so that parents don't see. We were dumb because the quarry we used to swim in, the grass, not the grass, the soil was terrible. You know, it was not a proper river, it was dirty. So we also had Vaseline in the small pieces of paper and we would, smear it on our faces, but then there would be sand on our hairline and we would get a hiding. Ladies and gentlemen, normally as part of our discussion, I start by sharing my takeaways from the book and all. Believe you me, I read the book and I'm in awe. And earlier on when we were talking, I was saying, you know what, there will be lots of students and I hope they listen and they take all these, pearls of wisdom so that, we can thrive, we can grow, we don't have excuses. You were the first, to go through all of this. You absorbed all sorts of drama and all sorts of things so that our young generation can have it easy, because they cannot say it's never done. So I'm not going to talk a lot. Us lawyers can talk forever. So today, I'm going to hand over straight to Mam Gobodo for her to address us, and so that we've got enough time for you to engage with her. Does that sound good? Is that a good deal? But before I hand over to Mam Gobodo, I would like to really ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to give her a warm and resounding applause like the one that one can expect from the great University of Johannesburg. Thank you so much for setting time aside to come and engage with us. Without any further waste of time, welcome to the great University of Johannesburg, where we don't say all protocol observed. We say all excellence observed. Over to you, ma'am.
Wow. Yo, hi, Prof. Today. I'm an accountant, but, I'm a free spirit. Students. He has given me students. Those are the people I want to talk to. I'm so excited, Prof. You don't
More than me?
an idea.
More than me?
You don't have an idea.
I'm more excited than you.
You have no idea. Nake, suka ngapha eMthatha, Eastern Cape, former Transkei. Plan yami kuthiwa abathembu, oqhudeni, omvelase,
Wow.
ompafane. Nina nawe luthukela. This part I don't like really much. Kuthiwa omakhonze goduka ningomiwa lithambo lasemzini. Most of our women are divorced. Most of our women are divorced. So I don't like that part.
Okay.
I don't like that part. But there are people who still say, yes, omakhonze goduka. So, guys, I'm so happy to see you. You have no idea. You have no idea. So I thought this was going to be a panel. So I'm going to speak off the cuff. You have to read the book for yourself, because I really share my journey in that book. People have been saying, where is the book? Where is the book? Where is the book? I'm like, hey, I'm a chartered accountant. This thing of writing books, how am I going to write a book, a whole book? Secondly, I'm a quiet person, I'm an introvert, a person of few words. Where am I going to get words to write a book? But God is good. I don't know why you always start with this imposter syndrome, that we doubt ourselves. So, but one day, so I was looking for writers and all of that. But one day, I realized that who can tell my story better than me? So I'm going to write this book. Okay. I'm going to write this book. Yes, I'm going to write this book. And then I said, okay, now it's serious, Nonku. Mam Nonku is serious. What are we really going to talk? Sure, the story is there. You've heard it many times. But I've had a life of ups and downs. I want to share the good, the beautiful, and the ugly. But how far should I go? Because I want people to know that life is real. They see this big person who has achieved these big things, but there's a human being behind that who goes through challenges like everybody else. Failing CTA, I failed CTA. Because I had a baby, I was already married, pregnant at 17. So when I was starting, I already, my parents said, that's it, you're getting married. So I got married at 17. Yes, things happen to people. So I was like, no, I'm going to tell it. as it is. So that when you're going through your challenges, you know that if she went through that and came through the other side, so can I. Ne? And then one day I sat down and I wrote. And it was 2 pages. I was like, I wrote 2 pages. And then, of course, you start writing and writing. Then you think, man, this thing of writing, I can do it. I can do this. Then you realize that, no, writing is something else. I suppose there are people here, who understand literature. I'm at a university here, I must be careful. Then you realize that creativity comes in waves. You have blockages sometimes. You write a chapter, and when you look at it again, you're like, this is rubbish. You scrap the whole thing and start from scratch. But finally, ladies and gentlemen, I'm an author. I have a new title. I'm an author, not just, as chartered accountants, Prof, we don't have titles. So I'm just Mamnungu. And this book is, I didn't know how people receive it. Are they going to judge me? Because they take me, to be this big person. How will they respond to the true story? But I've been amazed at how they've responded. Because the story talks to you, right? Everybody can find themselves in that book. Black, white, young, old, men, women, everybody can find themselves in that book because it's a story of life. Now, we grew up, during that time when things were not easy. And because of that little story I told you about pregnant at 17, why that happened actually was that I was shy and introverted, and my mom, who was a strong matriarch, was just worried about this child. This child is not going to survive. And at some point, I started to verbalize this thing. Wena, you need to wake up and, toughen up. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. You're going to fail. Then I start to believe this thing, that I'm a failure, I'm not going to make it in life. If this matriarch of a mother of mine is saying this, that it must be true. Then you have a low self-esteem. You don't know what you want to do. That's why then my father was like, okay, they wanted me to be a doctor. I was sort of a little smarter than my siblings. Then fortunately, I realized that I don't want to be a doctor, but I still don't know what I want to do. But okay, go and work at my panel beating shop and to figure this thing out. That's the thing that saved me, literally. So I get there, 19 years old. The panel beating shop is being run by 2 white men. So the manager asked me, what's your name? I'm Nonkululeko, what? Oh, that's too difficult. I'm just going to call you Mary. I'm like, what? You will do no such thing. You're going to call me by my name. You're going to write it down. You're going to practice it. Unyabile. Where was that one? Unyabile. I'm like, okay. There's a new Nonkululeko who's coming out. Then I'm taught this bookkeeping thing. I catch it quickly. Although I was smart, I was not an A student until varsity, really. But, but I didn't realize that if I'm smart in books, I'm smart in other areas as well, because my mother, this is what she used to say. So when this report comes and my father, who's a teacher, is excited, because he's never seen this, grades. My mother would say, I don't care about people who are smart in books. So I was like, I can't ever win with her, So now I realize, I'm smart, I'm strong, I'm able to stand up to these bullies. At 19 years old, I am not this thing that my mother said I was. And then I find myself. Then suddenly, I'm exposed to accounting. Suddenly, I know now what I want to do. I go to my father. Dad, now I know what I want to do. I want to be a chartered accountant. What is that? What is that, Mtanam? So, but he was, he used to say, I want my children to be free thinkers. So whatever you want to do, I will fully support you. That's how I became a chartered accountant. In my life of ups and downs, one thing that I learned was that I could fall flat and lose myself because of that childhood trauma, of that wound. Because we didn't understand childhood trauma. I'm sure there are psychologists here. We didn't understand childhood trauma, the impact of childhood trauma. So I would fall, boom. And then one day I would get tired of suffering and wake up. And as soon as I wake up, Nonku comes back, full force. So I realized that no matter what we're going through in life, the true person, the true you, is right there, and you can find him or her, right? So I want to say to you, we live in a country that has also told us who we are, right? Myths that have been created. You are inferior, you are weak, as women also, including women here, black people and women, everybody else, weak, this and that. And as I said to you that I believe those things about myself, at some level, we believe these things. But what was actually important for me was that once I found myself, I decided that never again will I allow anybody to define who I am. So when I got into corporate and I faced a black woman, faced gender and racial inequality back there, I used to say, Prof, your opinions of me don't define me. You don't even know me. And so I never felt this unconscious bias or whatever because immediately they would know me. So I can share stories about that. One that excites me that I want to share is, so I get this audit of a bank. When you live in Namtata, good audits are rare. So I'm the lead auditor, second year article clerk. We call them article clerks, then trainee accountant. Second year, I'm leading this, because I found the gift early, I'm leading this audit. Then I get to the bank, ask to see the bank manager. As they introduce me, she's a little black woman. Go away, go away, go away. So I go away. And I sit in my office. I'm like, I'm not going to Dark Southgate to ask him to help me with it. I want to deal with this myself. Second day, same thing, go away. Third day, I have a plan. I don't talk to anybody, I stand by the door. When the last client leaves, I walk in, close the door. Says, go away, go away. I sit down. 26 years old. This big African man in apartheid South Africa. No, you will see me. I'm the lead auditor on this job. I need to do my job, and I can't do it until you allow it and introduce me to the people I need to speak to. You should have seen the air in that room. You listen to me and introduce me. We become friends. Doing articles. I was having a bank overdraft, taking my poor family who suffered while I was standing on holidays. Because I knew who I was, right? So it doesn't matter what environment, when you bring your true self and not try to conform to the stereotype, which is what we do, people will respect you. But if you're protesting and saying, you have to listen to me, blah, 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 they won't respect you. But where I'm coming to is that now, all of us were not born when racism, gender, inequality, and all of these things were started. All of us, this generation, black and white, were not born, right? So we don't know what normal looks like. We're all looking for this new thing, this new world that we've never seen. And so we all have to recreate this world, all of us, right? Because I ask myself, if women and black people, they get to cooperate and they study the situation, and remember, as human beings, we have that natural thing of safety and security. You study the situation and realize that, here, for me to be safe, I need to diminish myself a little bit so that I conform to the stereotype, which I call self-abandonment. So if you bring half of yourself, how are we going to expand the pie? If women bring half themselves and you bring half yourself, we need to expand the pie. We need to bake more pies because we need to grow our economy. There are people outside there who are waiting for you. You're the only one who can change the world. They're waiting for you to expand the pie so that they may also come in. So we need to deal with this thing. And no one is going to do it for us. When we complain about the slow pace of transformation, who are you complaining to, my brother? Who are you complaining to exactly? I mean, you must think about this thing. Who are you complaining to? Who must champion your own transformation? Who can do it better than you? So I started, Prof, in eras of social change. And I realized that this thing of social change is actually not new. Social inequality has always been there. Someone must be at the bottom for others to, rise up. And so no one can really put you at the bottom unless you allow it yourself, right? And I know that I know about the reality of the situation. But for me, the African's transformation is the one that is closest to us. That we don't remember this history. They were poor, they were living in slums, they were considered inferior by the English. They did not complain to anyone. They decided to champion their own economic transformation. Today, we forget that history, right? And so, where we are now as women and black people, many people have been there before. They are not at the bottom today, African people, right? Because no one can really put you at the bottom. Now, if you go to the 17th century, the social changes of the 17th century, peasants were at the bottom. And they were the ones who were paying the taxes, only ones who were paying the taxes, only ones who were funding the church. But they believed what was said about them. You're inferior, you're poor, you're not sophisticated like the aristocrats. And they were like, hey, we need this slice of the pie, just like we do. We get to cooperate, ne? Why we abandon ourselves? It's like, hey, at least have a seat at the table, have a slice of the pie, I have to protect this pie, I need this job. So they had the same attitude. We need these landowners and so on. Meanwhile, they were carrying the whole country. Very powerful people. Then one day they woke up and they realized that, no, this thing is unfair. And they wanted change. And those revolutions. We don't need a revolution. We just need to wake up, all of us, black and white, and realize that actually what we want is to save our country. What we want is everybody to enjoy the pie. Because those same people who believed that they were inferior and poor and all of that, they became scientists, inventors, industrialists, ushered in the Industrial Revolution, right? Some people expanded the pie. More people got in. We're enjoying that now. You are at university today because of those people who changed the world back then. So we don't need a revolution. We just need all of us to wake up and realize that we can fix this thing, right? Because now that we know that Black people and women are just as powerful, just as smart as everyone else, how are we going to use our resources effectively so that we expand this pie, bake more pies, and allow all those people who are protesting in Soweto to come into the fold? Only you can do it, guys. Only you. No one else. The hope of this country is not going to come from politicians. I mean, they've shown us already. They are not the solution. You are the solution that is going to save this country. So we need you to wake up. All of us. Wake up and realize that there's nothing we're fighting about. We're just fellow human beings, just as smart as everyone else. And we need to collaborate and work together and understand that we're different and that we shouldn't fight over that. The fact that we're different, men and women are fighting over that. And I'm starting to understand why we're always talking about the slow pace of transformation around women. Because remember, the roles were defined. The roles were defined. Men will bring the bread, and women will look after the home and the family and all of that. And then men, got skills, and women got different skills. Because those are skills. Then they get to cooperate into an environment that they didn't create, which was more masculine energy, doing energy, right? And so women come into this environment that they didn't create. And they realize very quickly that for me to survive here, I've got to go back to Jung. Carl Jung, who said, we have both the feminine and masculine. So you can find your masculine energy as a woman when you need to. So they dig deep and find that masculine energy so that they fit in, so that they are accepted, so that they are respected, and so on. Meanwhile, why there's so much brokenness in corporate is that we're still pushing this masculine energy. We're not understanding that for us to have balance, we need both the feminine and the masculine. And so we'll then have a healthy environment where people can thrive and not be on depression medication and anxiety medication because the environment is so hostile. So let's allow women to be women and bring that feminine energy so that we can have balance, which is why at home there's balance, right? As Jung said, I, for instance, had more masculine energy than feminine, and I had to find my feminine energy. But when I divorced, my husband was more like, nice guy. And then my kids were left with just this one energy, CEO at home and CEO at the work, at home and at the workplace. The one who was saying, hey, you're writing matric now. Let's set targets. What are your symbols, target symbols for this matric? That father who used to play with them and so on was not there, right? Brokenness, cycle of brokenness continues, of breaking ourselves at corporate, breaking ourselves at home because we've got female-led homes where there's no balance. So again, guys, let's stop this thing and allow women to be themselves so that we can have healthy working environments where everybody can thrive. Men have been convinced that, conditioned that I don't have the nurturing nature. It's only women who are nurturing. I mean, really, those are just myths and illusions. I've proven it in my home. That, I'm wrapping up now so that we can have engagement. I've proven it in my home that anyone has nurturing gifts because my son who's divorced plays that role of 50%. The 1 week the kids are with him, 1 week they are with the wife, cooking with the kids, blah, blah, blah. Nurturing, CEO, MD of wealth and investment at Old Mutual. Now I'm talking about a high-level executive here. So this is, just a myth that now they are so busy that they can't take care of the family and the home and domestic responsibilities and all of those things. So what I'm trying to say is that let's solve these things, right? And allow women to be themselves, allow Black people to find themselves, and you don't have to wait for anybody. You have to dig deep and find that true self that I spoke about, that I found. You can find it because it's right there, so that we can build this country, make more pies, let everybody be part. I always say that when Black people and women wake up and find who they truly are, we're going to live in a new world that we've never seen. The Industrial Revolution will look like a picnic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Nonkululeko Gobodo. Ladies and gentlemen, I couldn't help but wonder, what did you really say to those bullies, or what you really did to the bullies? It reminded me of my student. I know it's not about me, and some of you might have heard this story. Of course, I'm the oldest son, you see, and I had 2 older sisters. So it would have been embarrassing, growing up at my village, to send my older sisters to fight my battle. So I didn't care. I fought with many people twice my age. I lost all the fights. They beat the hell out of me. I didn't care. For me, what was important was that I stood my ground. Until I joined karate, and they never dared came near me. The bullies. That my aim was that I stood my ground. I stood for something. And when I read your book, I was touched really by the part where, and you also repeated that, and I quote, you say, "Your opinions of me do not define me. You do not even know me." How often do we go out there and spend so much time and energy worrying about other people's opinions about us, It's incredible, isn't it? It's time that now we just look at them and ignore them, especially when it comes to dreams. Sometimes people have these opinions about other people that would suggest what would be good for you in life, whereas they are not you. Or people who tell you, like me, I was told I've got big shoes to fill. I say, hell no, I bring my own shoes. I mean, and it's not arrogance, it's because, and you touched slightly on this, that, look, you can only do you. There's only one you, and you can do well by being yourself, not trying to be someone else, As a married man, I paid attention, especially in the chapter where you talk about your divorce, and you say it takes 2 to break a marriage. Incredible. I'm not going to go, I don't plan to divorce. When you talk about your mom as the matriarch of the family, I pick perseverance, and it reminds me also of my mother and my mother's generation, how mothers believed in what they are doing. We have a saying that a mother grabs the knife from the cutting side, to defend the children and so on. Do we still have that today? I don't know. I have a feeling that, of course, I'm younger than many of you, but I feel like we and the current generation gives up easily about many things. When things go wrong on a particular day, then it's almost like it's a bad life and then the world has collapsed. Your words reminded me of what Utata Madiba once said, that it always looks difficult until it's done. You failed the CTA. Many people would go out there and act like they got everything going. I'll confess, I failed accounting for attorneys. Test, not I passed it with distinction. No, those who've got access to records, you can check here, I passed it with distinction. And I failed that test because I got drunk. Coming from a village, I thought beer was bitter. Then I met, people from townships, from Atteridgeville, people from Tembisa. And then they said, no, try this one. You drank that bitter one, this is all right. And it felt so good. I got drunk and I went there, things didn't add up, balancing, the left and all. I got 0. But, that day, it was a wake-up call. I could hear my mother screaming. I could hear, she told me that you fail, you are out. One short deal. She said, as you see, we are not rich. And many of you can relate with this. She said, we are not rich. We will work hard to support you, progress with your studies, but not to stay still. And I said, this won't happen again. And we had a wonderful lecturer. That's why it's important for us as academics not to be unreasonable, but also not to be taken for a ride. He said, I don't care what you do. I'm going to give you 3 opportunities. And I'm going to make the best 2 results of your tests count. Oh, the 3rd test, I aced it. And I graduated with distinction. Of course, people say accounting for attorneys is not proper accounting. It's like Coke Light. But for me, it's the same. I liked what you said. People may not like it, but it is clear that politicians will not really take us to the promised land. It's up to us to go out there and change the world. And we don't change it for politicians, we change it for ourselves, for our children and the next generation. And also for those that say it's not possible, you cannot be a chartered accountant, you cannot be a lawyer, and so on. One of my teachers once said to my class, he said, the only certificates you will get is a birth certificate and a death certificate.
Yeah.
And then he said, the only title you will get is a Mr. or a Miss, because a Mr. or a Miss are born. The day I got my PhD, my LLD, doctorate in law, I said, oh, I wish he was around. I would insist on him calling me doctor. When I got my professorship, I said, oh, I wish he was around. I would insist on him calling me prof. Now as Vice-Chancellor, I would say, call me Vice-Chancellor. But it's not about that. We all respect our teachers, isn't it? Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's not about long Mississippi stories from the Vice-Chancellor from a village. It's not about where you're coming from. It's about where you're going. Please, she is here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's engage.
The issue is that around how to separate the person from the leader is that, we emphasize a lot around, the qualifications, the experience, and all of that. But in the corporate world, you bring yourself, the whole person. You bring your natural gifts, your natural talents, the things that you like and the things that you don't like. And this whole thing of knowing who you are becomes so important, because those people are frustrated doing something that they don't like is because they don't realize that what you really use are your natural gifts. I had a dinner the other day with one of my mentees who's in the financial services. And she said, managing money didn't make me wake up in the morning. I was like, what do you mean? Until, I changed roles and I'm now dealing with clients, about, what their needs are and all of that, and now I'm alive, right? So you can't separate the leader from the person. Right. That's why we've got different leadership styles and things like that. And coming to this whole thing of the feminine energy and all of that, is that it's not the energy that is whether it's feminine or masculine, that is succeeding, it's you, it's the person, right? So we've had situations where, for instance, a woman CEO who is leading with more feminine energy is considered weak by the board and, fired. But when you look at the real story, there was a healthier environment. People were not on depression pills and anxiety because it was a thriving environment. When you look at the numbers, the business was growing, but she was still rejected because she led from her feminine side. So it's not the masculine or feminine. It's about we're all powerful and gifted, but we lead differently because we're just different. And this too much masculine energy in corporate is breaking people. You're gonna go to corporate tomorrow, you're gonna find it there. The first day, you're gonna find it there. So I want you to know that it's okay to be nurturing. When I found my female side, I was the one who, when we have meetings at 6 a.m. in the morning, I would organize coffee and breakfast. I knew who was divorcing, I knew who had lost their parent, I knew all of these things. I was hugging my partners because what we were doing was big thing. My male partners, I would hug them because they were like, how can I make it? They were doing things that they'd never done. But I could still be that tough Nonkululeko who says, hey, we're going there, guys. We have to be on the way. And then, how did I survive? When things started to shift in the country, and we had this issue of corruption taking a new level, I realized that, I'm about legacy. If I don't wake up and make sure that we have, deal with our culture, with our values, and all of that as a business, we're not gonna make it. As a business, this legacy that I want to see, that the future generations must come and continue where I started, is not gonna happen. So I used to tell them that I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how much money you make for us. If you don't live our values, we're gonna let you go. We're gonna let you go, and we let them go. It's focus. It's focus on what is the right thing. Where we are now as an accounting profession is because we lost that focus and became focused on, wealth and grittiness like everybody else, because unfortunately, the culture of the country will impact you as well. The third one was about how do we achieve this transformation about patriotism and all of that. I think it was about that. I said to myself, they say that, in the Bible, where there's no vision, people perish. And that scripture is so true. It's so true. If the Vice-Chancellor doesn't have a clear vision for this university, and you don't know what is important to him, things are gonna collapse here, literally.
Yeah.
If you are a head of department and your team doesn't know where you are going and what is important to you. So we live in a country where we don't have that vision. And so, because we don't have that leadership, we have to lead ourselves wherever we are. The Vice-Chancellor must make sure that no matter what is happening outside, we here are producing the leaders of tomorrow. So that you go there and make that difference. That's just the only way we're going to get there. Forgetting the last one. Sister and Stella, sit down.
Yeah.
You know that as much as we can be smart business people and all of that, but without support, we can never make it. Someone has to champion some things. white people make it because they make those networks at varsity, and then their fathers and their mothers and their whatever. I had an incredible story. I was at a function last night of how AFTA was started, that the people who started AFTA didn't have the capital. And so they went to their friends in the communication marketing world who used to go and lecture there for free. You know, things like that. Without that, we would have no AFTA today, right? So we need to support one another. And you find that they say that women don't support one another and black people don't support one another. We're not gonna make it if you don't do that. If you don't support one another. And it starts with why black people don't support one another and women don't support one another. It's because they're afraid of failure. Remember, they're surviving there. So if I give you this opportunity and you fail me, then I also fail. That's why we need to find ourselves, deal with these limiting beliefs that we believe about ourselves. Because if you trust yourself and you believe in yourself, then you trust the next person. And my son actually tells me stories of, very big on transformation where he is. And so he promotes this guy. And, the guy has potential and is not quite there, but he knows he's going to support him. And then the first whatever thing, he gets calls from his other colleagues. This guy is blah, 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 is not doing things right or whatever. And he says to them, call me in 3 years if he's still like that. In 3 years, then call me right now, please. But the same guys, a year later, were calling me, yo, did you see so-and-so? What you did? Without those opportunities, we're not gonna make it. We would not have made it. Yeah. This whole thing of victimhood, right? We're victims of this and victims of that, and now we're victims of poor leadership. And the cost of poor leadership, Prof, is very high.
It is.
It's very, very high, the cost of poor leadership, as we can see, right? And I pondered this thing, and I wondered, if we're going to wait for politicians, hey, we're going down the drain. Our country is getting very close to the cliff. We're not over yet. We can still bring it back. But someone was asking me, do you think that we'll have the right leader in 2024? And I thought, okay, I'm an optimistic person. I'm not sure we'll find that leader from politicians. But do I believe that we'll find solutions, the continent and our country? Yes, absolutely, I believe. And I believe that the people themselves, the leadership now, has to come from us. Let's make this thing so hot that who's going to be, when we are taking over and rebuilding our country and saving our country, we'll never allow poor leadership. Because when we allow poor leadership, we disrespect ourselves. Which is why they continue, right? It's because we've accepted poor leadership. We're not going to change them, but we can change ourselves and make sure that wherever we are, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to, if we are a head of department in Department of Education, people are playing games there because there's no leadership. That I, as this head of department, I'm going to do my job. Right? I'm going to lead and make sure that my department excels. And that's the only way we're going to change Africa and the continent. And I believe the people will do it. It was not politicians who changed the world in the 1700s. it was the people. Always, it's always the people. Yes, we need leadership. We need leaders who are going to lead us through this transformation, I agree, but it's going to come from us, no one else. Second one was about, can women really truly be respected and play the kind of role that they deserve to play in the economy? And I believe that, again, this whole issue of things will change for women when men change is really wasting our time. That's why I'm saying as women, we need to focus on ourselves and start to find our true selves and move away from the myths that have been said about us so that we can bring our full selves wherever we are and again contribute to expanding the pie. As I've shared with you, that wherever I was respected as a Black woman in apartheid South Africa because I knew who I was. I also always started from that place of, she's a woman, she's incapable. In no time, I would prove that I am not that, right? So wherever we go, we have to prove that we are not that. We can't prove until we find our true selves, which comes from dealing with the layers and layers and layers that have been put upon us as women and find the true self.
Thank you.
When I had my daughter, I was lecturing. I had time. And she spent so much time with her. And then I had to pursue my dream of becoming a chartered accountant. And I disappeared at 2 years, completely disappeared. You can imagine a 2-year-old just feeling abandoned. Where's mom? And I never realized the impact of that feeling of abandonment. Because I just had this troubling relationship with her where she kept saying, I don't love her. And I just didn't understand, what do you mean I don't love you? And unfortunately, also, she's an artist. And so I was trying to turn her into me, the CEO at home. It took me a long time to realize that she must be allowed to be herself. Artists are, casual people, not much discipline, and so on. Because they have to be creative, right? It took me a long time to allow her to be herself. So when she had her daughter, because she had mother wounds, transferred those mother wounds to the daughter now, doing the same matriarch thing over the daughter. And fortunately, she had a husband who understood that nurturing has nothing to do with gender. And the husband played a big role of nurturing the daughter during that time. Until I decided to go through a healing journey with my kids over the absent mother and so on and so on. So when we're trying to unpack this thing of I don't love her, that's when I realized where it's coming from. Because she then said, I have a feeling that you rejected me from the womb. You never wanted me. Fortunately for me, that's when it dawned on me, no. Actually, you're the only one who was planned out of my 3 kids. And I wanted a doctor so desperately that I used to say to the gynae, don't even tell me the sex. I don't want to be disappointed because when the baby's here, I'll accept the baby. So you were expected, with excitement. This abandonment of yours is that 2-year-old whose mother disappeared. And then this childhood trauma, which she carried and was now transferring to the daughter. And that healing that we went through saved my granddaughter. So I'm saying we have to deal with healing, guys. We have to deal with this toxic masculinity that is destroying. We have a broken nation because of this masculine thing only, because our fathers were even absent, most of us. So healing is going to be part of this journey, I can assure you. Workbook, you know, I've started a movement with this book, and I've been thinking lately, okay, people are asking for more, you know. You're waking us up, you're opening our wounds. So the wounds are open, what do I do with them now? Or I'm waking up, what do I do? Where do I find the tools and the resources to continue my journey of finding myself? So I'm definitely planning, providing the tools, and I'm already launching in November a podcast, and I'm calling the podcast Unconditioned Mind. Because the only way we're going to change society is transforming our minds from all the socialization that we've had, all of us, black and white, women, men. That's the only way we're going to do it. So I'm ready on that project. And the last one was about, remind me, purpose and finding yourself and all of that. Well, you know, this thing of finding yourself, as I share in my book, the book is outside actually, and it's available in bookstores as well. I mean, so if you can't buy it today, it's also available in bookstores. And I'm gonna give away 5 books to students, only students today. And whoever I find there first, because I didn't think about that first. So this whole thing is a journey, because which I went through, you know, it's layers and layers and layers of that onion that we have to unpack and unpack to find the true self, right? And I also started there of saying, hey, they're always criticizing me. When I was young, they criticized me that I'm shy. Now they're criticizing me that I'm a strong leader. But if I don't know myself, how can I expect people to understand me? So I started there, and after I understood my natural gifts, it was still an issue, which is why I started the healing journey that I really promote. So it's not a one-day thing, you know, because your purpose also comes, and let's not be romanticize this purpose thing. Hey, we've romanticized it a lot. Wherever you are now is your purpose. Your purpose today is to be a student, right? When you start your first job, your purpose is to start your career. So that's what purpose is. Purpose is wherever you are. and so, but even as that student, why you choose accounting or engineering or whatever is that self that is interested in this field and that field. Even when you start working, you'll be interested in that department and that department because of yourself. So it's purpose all the way. So I would say that let's start embarking on this journey. You know, healing, the healing part. But then I was like, we need to allow those wounds to open and start healing those wounds. And yes, we need resources to deal with the wounds. But I promise you, you will do what I did. Rise and fall, boom. Because you are not healing yourself. It's really a journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I did a course last year, and one of the lecturers told us that trauma experience can pass through 7 generations. It's incredible, isn't it? And they did a study, using mice, and they saw that trauma can pass through 7 generations. I thought I should mention this when you say we must try to deal with those wounds and heal. Ladies and gentlemen, how many people in this world, when they are the first to do something, they want to remain the only ones that have arrived? When they climbed up there using a ladder, they kick it down so that no one else can join them up there. But I'm sure you'll agree with me, she's different. After climbing there, she worked tirelessly, and she continues to work to ensure that everyone can climb, and all of us can rise. And it takes really a special person to do that. Ma'am Gobodo, thank you so much for this. We really appreciate it. There's a lot that we are taking. We'll clap and we'll bring down the roof. There's a lot that we are taking with us today. I've made lots of notes, and you say know who you are. You can't go anywhere if you don't know what or who you are all about. This is what people get discouraged. Somebody say you are not going to amount to anything, and people give up. But once you know what you're all about, then keep on walking. Be Johnny Walker. We are all powerful and gifted. It starts with one appreciating one's talents. Often we're like, oh, I wish I was like you. I wish I could talk like you. But others say, I wish I could dance like you. So one spends a lot of time looking at what others are doing, being themselves, without appreciating what one is good at. This point really is what we always try to drive across, that you can't do it alone. Support is incredibly important. And where do you build these networks? I mean, today, the people you are studying with, these are your future partners. These are your future collaborators. So it's important to cultivate and build those relationships. The issue of the cost of poor leadership. Today, we see people masquerading as leaders, I mean, in academia, I say you can be a good professor, but it doesn't make you a good leader. At UJ, we say UJ deserves the best, and we're not going to compromise on that vision. You talked about vision. Visionless leaders, they have no business in leadership positions, And when you talked about being a CEO at home and at work, you reminded me of my wife. My wife reminds me time and again that you are VC at UJ. And the day we move into the UJ house, I don't know what she's going to tell me, because I would say, well, this is UJ's property. So it's extremely important. So what is left of me, I'm sorry I couldn't take all the questions, but the aim is to plant a seed. These conversations will continue, and through other means, as we have heard, a podcast is coming, but also through you. The idea is that these ideas should not die. You should build on this. I'm sure it will mean a lot to her. Certainly it will mean a lot to me one day to hear you, see you speaking somewhere, saying the seed was planted at UJ when we had that high tea discussion. That is the aim. So what is left of me is to thank you really from the bottom of our hearts for setting time aside to come and share these words of wisdom with us. Here we've got students, and not only students from the College of Business and Economics, not only students, accountancy students, we also have law students. I saw a colleague from law earlier. We've got staff. Mr. Munyaide is from Student Affairs. We have professors here, Professor Amanda Dempsey, Professor Ahmad there, and many other people from UJ who come to learn. Colleagues from Advancement, I see you, and many other wonderful colleagues who came to support. And this is the biggest audience we've ever had for the high tea with the VC. So let's give you a long round of applause. So, ladies and gentlemen, this would have not been possible without the support of many people, too many to mention, but please allow me to single out a few. Alrina, you and the team, Reneka, and all the wonderful people at the UJ Library, the young men and women who were running around here with microphones. You always look beautiful, professional. When I come here, I know, we'll be well supported. The guys that played the music and the nice choice of music really talked to me. I was tempted to stand up and dance, but I remembered that this is being recorded. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nice tea and some nice stuff to have. Please enjoy. Courtesy of the Dean, Executive Dean of the College of Business and Economics, Professor Lindle Salaza. Ladies and gentlemen, tea is served. Happy Heritage Day, and enjoy the long weekend. Thank you. Thank you so much.
The University of Johannesburg. The future reimagined.